The old man said that this black tai sui was good for him and would help suppress his hysteria. At the same time, Li Hua Wong was thinking that he needed to remove it, that he shouldn't eat it, and that there was nothing wrong with him. The old man called for two attendants, Gangming and Changren. They obeyed their master's orders and, using their swords, restrained Li Hua Wong. The master told him that he had no choice, he had to eat it. While thinking that he could refuse, the protagonist suddenly shifted to another world. There, someone was repeatedly calling his name. It was Nana, who asked if he was okay or if something hurt. He was happy and surprised to see her. But then he noticed that someone else was in the room. The doctor asked what he saw in his hallucinations, since his emotional fluctuations had increased lately. Hua Wong realized he was still experiencing hallucinations, even after waking up in his original world. He then asked Dr. Li if he could give him some medicine to temporarily suppress the hallucinations, because he wanted to take a break. The doctor answered that he still had some left, but to be sure, he would prescribe more. He continued, explaining that medicine only offered a supportive role. He wanted to be fully healed. He had to follow his methods. Nana brought the medicine and offered to help him take it. The protagonist, noticing that his hallucinations were intensifying, asked to take the pills without water. After that, he felt safe so long as he took his medicine. The hallucinations wouldn't appear. Nana asked what he meant by being safe, and what he saw that scared him so much. Hua Wong answered that it was nothing, just that someone had told him he had hysteria, and had tried to feed him something strange. It all felt like a joke. He was a person from the modern world, and these hallucinations couldn't be real. And yet, when he said that he could now forget about them, something strange happened. He started to panic. If he had taken the medicine, why was this still happening? He hoped that if he closed his eyes, the hallucinations would disappear when he opened them again. The master said that while Li Hua Wong was adamant about not eating the black tai sui, a moment later, he almost ate his own hand along with it. His hysteria was gone, and now he could work. Also, at their temple, they did not accommodate idle people, so he would have to take his medicine every month. The protagonist, panicked, wondered why this was happening, and how this place could be real. The memories he had with his childhood friend Nana had to be true. There was no way they were false. How could it all be a lie? How could all the emotions he had felt be fake? Impossible. There was no way. Nana was not an illusion. While throwing up, he kept telling himself that this was impossible. Then, he heard Nana calling for him again, and he felt relieved she hadn't left. She was still here, but then, right before his eyes, she slowly began to disappear. In desperation, he called out to her, begging her not to leave him, but there was nothing he could do. She completely vanished, leaving him alone to suffer. He screamed, demanding to know why he was in this cursed place, and why this illness wouldn't just let him live a normal life. Sometime later, inside the cave where the other people were working, Bai Ling Miao was carrying food for the depressed protagonist, who seemed to have given up. She told him to eat the steamed buns, because he hadn't eaten anything all day. He asked her again how the pendant had ended up with her. She answered that he had given it to her, and that she had tried to refuse it, but he had forced her to take it. She continued, saying that after she took it, he started laughing and shouting that he wasn't sick. Li Hua Wong asked what had happened after that. She answered that senior brother Wong had taken the opportunity and hit him in the head with a rock. Brother Wong had thought the protagonist was dead and had tried to go after Bai Ling Miao. Hua Wong remembered that Brother Wong was the ugly, chubby guy and asked what had happened to him. She answered that the protagonist had killed him, but why didn't he remember? That revelation shocked the protagonist because, at the time, he had been in the other reality, where he had killed old Liu, so there was no old Liu after all, which meant he was completely insane. At another time, In the room with the big cauldron, Hua Wong was thinking that, if this place was reality, then his junior sister and all the other people would die, and the one responsible was that disgusting old bastard. At that moment, the master called for him and asked if he had something to say. The protagonist hesitated for a moment, and the old man urged him to just answer the question. "What are you thinking about so intensely?" The protagonist was intimidated and struggled to come up with an answer. But then, he said that he greatly admired the path of cultivation his master followed, and was wondering when he would be able to reach that level. Senior brother Jenkin thought this was a pathetic attempt at flattery. The master, however, laughed and said that it was good to be ambitious. Jenkin was surprised at how easily the master fell for such cheap flattery. The old man then explained that it wasn't that he didn't want to teach Hua Wong, but the path to immortality was difficult. Thinking that he had successfully saved himself, Hua Wong asked if the master would achieve immortality soon. The old man replied that it wasn't easy, but he was sure he would achieve it. He then asked his disciple if he knew why, to which Hua Wong admitted he didn't. Jenkin interrupted, saying that it was almost midnight and they needed to start refining the pills, so they wouldn't miss the auspicious time. The master agreed and told them to begin preparations immediately. The senior brother then told the protagonist to bring the medicinal herbs. When Hua Wong asked if they also needed a medicinal guide, Jenkin scolded him. He reminded Hua Wong that he was supposed to have retrieved the white medicinal guide 2 days ago, but because of his hysteria, they had lost the auspicious time for refining pills. The medicinal guide's properties and the timing of the refining process affected the quality of the pills, but there was no reason to explain such things to someone like Hua Wong. Instead, he sent him off to work quickly. At that moment, the protagonist realized that Bai Ling Miao was still in danger. A moment later, in the material room, the people were discussing how he had returned, and how they would all eventually die. Hua Wong approached Bai Ling Miao and told her to follow him. Having no other choice, she agreed. While walking, she asked him if he could deliver a message to her family if he ever managed to escape. Her parents lived at the foot of Nuxin Mountain in Liang country, and she wanted them to know that she had been a bad daughter and would not be able to take care of them when they grew old. Hua Wong told her that he could not help with that request and that she should hurry because they didn't have time. She was confused by his words and by the fact that he was holding a knife. Meanwhile, the master was preparing the mixture for the pills. When the protagonist arrived with the medicinal guide, the old man praised him for doing a good job and used his power to seize the guide. Bai Ling Miao was dragged away by the master. The old man inspected her to ensure her properties were correct, but he noticed something was off. He saw that her legs were wounded and stated that this was unfortunate because she had fallen and hurt her legs. Her medicinal properties had changed. Without hesitation, he threw her aside and ordered Hua Wong to take her back. Thinking that he had succeeded in saving her, Hua Wong was relieved. But then the master told him to wait since this medicinal guide was no longer good. He needed to fetch another one from the supply room. Hua Wong returned to the supply room and brought back another medicinal guide, who begged for their life. At that moment, he realized he had been wrong. He hadn't managed to save Bai Ling Miao. As long as that creepy old man kept making elixirs, he wouldn't be able to save anyone. Day after day, medicinal guides would continue to die in this place, and he couldn't keep playing along as the master's accomplice. The master handed him a pill, calling him his best disciple, while thanking the master for his generosity. Hua Wong was thinking that the only way to save everyone from this place was to kill the old bastard. The protagonist swallowed the pill, but it was unnaturally hot, making him suspect that something was wrong with it. The master told him to go back and rest. He also mentioned that the pill was very potent and would take some time for his body to fully absorb. On his way back, Hua Wong was struggling with the effects of the pill. However, the results of taking it were already visible. He then remembered that the pill was made from humans. yet it was his only way to get stronger. The old bastard had consumed countless pills, so Huo Wong needed a solid plan to kill him. Someone approached him from behind. It was Bai Ling Miao, who asked if he was feeling alright. The protagonist had too much on his mind, and no energy to answer her question. She told him that he didn't have to blame himself, because he was powerless, just like the rest of them. He remained silent, but became serious, which startled her. She then asked if he planned to rebel against the master. Huo Wong quickly told her to be quiet. They couldn't afford to be overheard, or they would all die if the old man found out. She reassured him, saying it was fine, because the wandering god was patrolling, so their master wouldn't be able to hear them at that moment. The protagonist was puzzled and asked her who this wandering god was. The surrounding people began whispering among themselves, wondering if he had come to collect more medicinal guides. Huo Wong noticed that everyone now viewed him as the old bastard's accomplice. He then told Bai Ling Miao to move elsewhere, because there were too many eyes and ears in that spot. One of the men nearby seemed to take an interest in their conversation. At a more secluded location, he asked Bai Ling Miao to explain who the wandering god was. She replied that the wandering god was just that, the wandering god, something neither seen nor touched. Her grandfather had told her that only high-level practitioners could summon it. However, it patrolled on the 1st and 15th day of every month. The protagonist immediately realized the importance of this information on these days. The master wouldn't be able to monitor the entire temple. Bai Ling Miao then asked him if he was serious about going against the master. Without hesitation, he replied, "Of course I want to eat his flesh and drink his blood." She nodded and told him he could count on her because she wanted to help. Just then, a voice interrupted, saying, "You can count on me too." The sudden intrusion startled them, as their conversation had been highly dangerous. The man who spoke reassured them that they wouldn't recognize him because he wasn't important, but they could call him Guwa. He then handed them bread and told them to enjoy it. Bai Ling Miao angrily asked if he had been eavesdropping on their conversation. He denied it, saying he had only been looking for senior brother Li to ask for protection, and had overheard her last words by chance. She told him they wouldn't let him join them. However, he responded that he admired senior brother Li, and that alone should be enough reason to trust him. This reminded Huo Wong of Xuanyong and made him wonder if Xuanyong had also gathered with allies like this to plot his escape. Huo Wong then asked Guwa if he wasn't afraid of him like the others were. Guwa answered, "No, because my senior brother's actions were unavoidable." After a moment of thought, the protagonist told him he could join them, as long as he wouldn't regret it later. In the following days, Huo Wong searched for ways to kill the master, but with only 2 people beside him, it was impossible. During this time, all he could do was transport the medicinal guides to the alchemy room, and the only thing he could truly offer them was to inscribe their last words in his heart. One day, Huo Wong informed the master that the medicinal guide was ready. The old man praised him, saying he had been doing well, and that their sect rewarded merit. Because Huo Wong had shown interest in alchemy, the master told him he would start teaching him the formula for blood-nourishing pills. However, the master warned him not to underestimate this formula despite its simple appearance. It was still a celestial method derived from the heavenly scriptures. Thank you for watching the second part of the series, The Path of Weird Immortals. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. I am sorry if the story of this series sounds too confusing. I am also having a hard time understanding what is happening at times. Goodbye.